photos on the Buckingham Palace balcony. The people across the world are willing to camp out in the pouring rain to catch a glimpse of in person. This is how the actress Adjoa Andoh decided to describe the moment that King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared for the first time following their coronation, flanked by their family on the famous balcony.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
Well,
we've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
By their family on the famous balcony. The moment that King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared for the first time following their coronation, flanked by their family on the famous balcony.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
Andoh decided to describe the moment that King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared for the first time following their coronation, flanked by their family on the famous balcony.
Fair use, fair use.
From the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
This balcony.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
I really need a womp, womp, womp. Salute to everyone in the building, man. I just want to make a quick stream about this because it's been brought to my attention. And actually, I remember I saw this. I saw this live, actually. I didn't really want to stream today. All right. But I just wanted to showcase consistency with these conversations because, you know, it's a unique talking point, you know. The loyal few want to hear it. So let's talk about it. You know. So who watched the King's coronation over the weekend? So those of you who might not be in the UK, we had a bank holiday yesterday because of the coronation of King Charles III, the son of Queen Elizabeth. Right, you know, she passed away last year, and now it's finally time for the son to take the mantle, right? So yeah, we had a bank holiday yesterday, and I know for most of you it's probably too lame for you to watch, right? So I know a lot of you probably didn't watch it. Press a 1 in the chat if you actually watched the coronation on TV. I'm pretty sure most of you were too cool to watch it, right? But I did. You know, it came on in the morning. You know, for me, it's like a once-in-a-lifetime event. You know, it's very unlikely to see another, you know, coronation again. Although, however, you know, King Charles is he's quite old, right? So we might see another one, right? But I think a part of me likes seeing the royal pomp because I don't know. For me, there's something that I appreciate about traditions, and I think the British, you know, they do a good job of upkeeping the British royal family, right? So all the pomp, all the swagger, the uniforms, the carriages, the orderly fashion, you know what I mean? I think I respect that because, hey, I like history. I respect the ancestors to a degree, you know. I have a respect for tradition. And I like seeing the continuation of doing stuff that, you know, was almost like 1,000 years old, you know. So at the end of the day, I respect it. You know what I mean? But no, I'm not a patriot. I'm not, you know, I'm not a royalist. I think I'm someone that is indifferent. You know, I appreciate it. I respect it. But I'm not some type of fan, right? But I also know, there's a segment of the population who are still butthurt whenever they see these type of images. They probably think about imperial colonialists. Some people probably think about slavery, right? Some people think about a lot of historic wrongdoings when they see this, right? And you know what? That's a good thing. It's good that we live in a country where we can express ourselves to this degree, right? Where you can openly oppose its monarchy, right? You try doing that stuff in Saudi Arabia or a country like, I don't know, Turkmenistan or something, and see how they mess you up. You dare like disagree or feel a certain way about monarchy, see how they get you, So these are one of the freedoms that a lot of us might take for granted, but hey, you are open, you are free, you are able to have your own opinions. You know what I mean? And so really with this stream, man, it's really, again, I'm not making this a showy stream. I don't anticipate I'll be on for too long. I didn't really want to stream tonight, but hey, I needed to keep the consistency going. I wanted to do the work even when I didn't feel like it. Shout out to Hamza, right? But for me, this, again, it just points out to a level of delusion that I have come to see within black people, some black people, okay? So this stream is just really about opening up on why this black British person, this actor, would say such a thing. Okay, so yep, as always, it's going to be a call-in show. So the link's already in the chat. It's already in the description if you want to jump on. There's a few people in the back already if you want to have your say. So yeah, I appreciate all of you, man. Let me shout out everyone who came through, man. Again, no theatrics, no intros. I just want to kind of get to it, have a discussion, keep it very natural. Shout out to Diego Harry in the building, aka Diego Ife. He was the first one in. Salute to you, bro. Got someone called Apotheosis. They've been saying a whole heap of stuff in the chat. I appreciate that. I'll read that as well. Salute to you. Who else came in? We got Ote in the building. Salute to you. We got Jay Lou in the building. Salute to you. Good to see some usual faces in the building. We got Kuma in the building. We got Ephraim Mackwith. I need to address that, actually. That's funny. Kuma says, did you feel like a patriot? No, absolutely no. I don't know what it is, man. I think, and I'm not saying this is you, but I think that people just have this expectation when you don't align with certain ideals or mentalities, right? So for me, I simply respect the royal family. That's just like I said when Queen Elizabeth died. Like, we all spoke about the history and the almost like a swagger when it comes to kind of owning up to the past wrongdoings, right? But hey, I respect the monarchy, but I never ever feel like a patriot. I think that's just I think to a certain degree, this is just my personal ignorant viewpoint, but patriotism to a certain degree is kind of like for a not very intelligent person, right? Someone that needs to feel a part of a group that just, like the type of person that's watching the sports, needs to, represent the red and the blue or whatever. But no, I just respect what the British royal family has been able to keep up. You know what I mean? Diego says William's coming soon. Yep. Such a late king to, for Charles to be king. We've got online account in the building. Salute to you. Who else? We've got TVS in the building. TVS, salute to you. Actually, it was your recommendation. It was your post. You posted maybe in the community tab. Actually, it was your recommendation that prompted this live stream. So I really appreciate that. Salute to TVS with the with the unbeknown live stream recommendation for today. I really wasn't intending to stream today, so like, you know, I was ready to write my little apology comment in the community tab. But hey, salute to TVS. So salute to everyone in the building, man. So you know, again, this for me really is about delusion. I'm gonna keep it short and sharp. If you want to call in, feel free to call in. So again, let me just play what this person said, and this is fair use because this is coming from Piers Morgan. It's very hard right now to find an isolated capture of what this British woman said. So let me present my screen. Where is it again? Okay, it's over here. So just for, you know, just for like a prelude intro to what's been said.
Well, it's an image that's synonymous with the British monarchy, royal family photos on the Buckingham Palace balcony. The people across the world are willing to camp out in the pouring rain just to catch a glimpse of in person. This is how the actress Adjoa Andoh decided to describe the moment that King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared for the first time following their coronation, flanked by their family on the famous balcony.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
The Netflix star who plays Lady Danbury in Bridgerton has now apologized.
So basically, you heard what she said. She was lamenting on the fact that the beginning part of the coronation was, or it appeared to be a bit more multicultural, right? There was a few faces in the Abbey that the king got coronated, you know, so-called multiracial. And then this actor, Adjoa, if that's how you spell her name, she was basically lamenting on the balcony where the king and the queen presented themselves with their family on Buckingham Palace, right? And she basically lamented on the fact that, hey, it went from being somewhat multicultural to hella white, terribly white. Okay. I'm gonna come back to this because there is a pushback kind of in Piers within Piers Morgan's show. Okay, so I want to see if you guys agree with it. But that's what she said, right? And I believe actually on she's already made statements about it, as in to defend herself. So it's even on Wikipedia already. So basically, several complaints were made to the media watchdog Ofcom after what she just said, right? Andoh explained that, quote, I was talking about the day and how marvelous it was, and then looking at the balcony at the end and suddenly going, oh, it's so white, right? Because the day had been so mixed. I didn't mean to upset anybody, quote. Okay, so that those are her afterthoughts, right? And let me actually play the whole Piers Morgan thing again, because there's a woman on his show that has some pushback as to basically defend what she said. So I want to see if you guys in the chat agree with it. Let me present it again, and let me play it again. Again, I don't intend for this stream to be long. Sorry, Siri, not today. Okay, so there's some pushback.
This is how the actress Adjoa Andoh decided to describe the moment that King Charles and Queen Camilla appeared for the first time following their coronation, flanked by their family on the famous balcony.
We've gone from the rich diversity of the Abbey to a terribly white balcony. I'm very struck by that.
The Netflix star who plays Lady Danbury in Bridgerton has now apologized for upsetting people after a comment caused a backlash.
Fair use.
On social media. But did she have a point? Or was her opinion actually the thing that was terrible? Well, let's discuss this now with Paula Rowan, Adrian and Tessa Dunlop. So, Paula, here's my problem with this. Imagine for a moment we talked about the Tongan royal family. And I said, wow, they're terribly Polynesian or terribly black. What would you have said?
So I can't answer that question because I don't know the history of the Tongan royal family.
Well, they're Polynesian.
But I do know the history of this royal family to the extent that there are people of colour in this royal family. We haven't seen, for example, the descendants of Anaya, her name was, until she was baptized, Sarah Forbes Bonetta. We don't have the descendants of, for example, the princesses who came from India. Why not?
But they're not the kids of the senior working royals.
They
the
were
only
part
criteria for being
of
on the
Queen
balcony is they're the senior members of the family,
They were
who, by the way,
part-
happen to be white. When was that a crime?
Piers,
that
you
a
can
family's
shout.
white?
You can shout because you know that what I'm about to say is going to upset you because it's right. Piers, Queen Victoria had a wonderful family portrait, and that family portrait included people of colour. Where are those descendants? Why aren't they on the balcony? Where is Meghan? Where are her
Where's
children?
Meghan?
Where is Dorian?
I'll tell you where Meghan was.
Where are
Meghan
they?
is at her $11 million mansion in California, which is gained from the proceeds of trashing the royal family for the last 3 years. That's where she is.
I accept that the adverb of terribly probably wasn't what I would choose.
You think?
Disappointingly,
All right.
I
listen.
would.
She said something very key, actually. Let me quickly
Included
read it.
people of colour. Where are those descendants? Why aren't they on the balcony? Where is Meghan? Where are her
Where's
children?
Meghan?
Where is Dorian?
I'll tell you where Meghan was.
Where are
Meghan
they?
is at her $11 million mansion in California, which is gained from the proceeds of trashing the royal family for the last 3 years. That's where she is.
So she's basically saying or suggesting that there were these mysterious, quote unquote, colored individuals who were associated with the royal family, and they've probably just been hidden or, excluded from the, the main royal family. But I mean, let me. Do you think she's reaching in the chat? Press a 1 if you think she's reaching, or press 2 if you think she has a point. Just to understand, where people's head is at. Is she reaching? Like, where are all these colored? She mentioned Queen Victoria had family portraits with her, with Asian and African subjects. Okay, Osman in the building, salute. Seeing ones, Diego, salute ones. Altair saying 1. Apophysis probably in between. Charles Randolph 1. Online account 1. It's almost like suggesting that there are significant members of the royal family who are black that are somehow being hidden. Do you see why I say this is delusion? Like, why can't we just let the royal family of the United Kingdom be white? Like, why try to force something that isn't there? What's wrong with that? And the reason why I call it delusion, this woman, Adjoa Andoh, right? She's actually a mixed woman, okay? And then on top of that, her husband is white, right? So while she is saying, oh, the balcony is terribly white, sorry, her dating and mating strategy has made it so that her own offspring will appear terribly white. So it's just this weird requests of seeing something that really has no place being there. I couldn't find any kind of images of her children. Really, I don't want to make this into some deep kind of manhunt type of stream, but I mean, there seems to be this charge, leading the charge of the pro-blackness by biracial people, right? And to me, that's just a bit strange, because a biracial person, you know, is a mixed person, right? So I find it quite weird to have to kind of almost seem like you're anti one, you know, one of what you're mixed with, if that makes sense. You know, because this obviously will come across, people will take it as being anti-white. Right? And I think most of you know how I feel about this whole quote unquote pro-black talking points. I just personally think it's very emotionally charged. It's baseless. You know, most of the people that cite to be pro-blacks, they've been the first ones to assail other black people. They'd be the first ones to, you know, to to assault, insult, disrespect other black people. There's an argument still ongoing with this whole just pearly things, right? You know, what a few individuals do is enough to call a whole group of other black people teffers or bootlickers or all of this nonsense, right? So needless to say, I don't believe in this whole idea of pro-blackness, but particularly here in Europe. Right? And I just think that this is part, these ideas that are often coming from, I guess, by way of America, is just, it comes across as just delusional, you know, like childlike requests. People who are just not sane, right in their head, requesting for the royal family of you know, a northern European country to have a little black on on the balcony of the palace. Like, what? You know, like this, you know, to be honest with you, man, sometimes I just feel like bunning all of this black British kind of discussions and talk, because it's like going against the grain of, like, a lot of people don't want to can't be logical when we talk about this. TVS says, let's see Adjoa's kids. Hey, that will be hilarious, man. Hilarious. Talking about, oh, it's terribly white. That would be hilarious. But yeah, man, to me, it's just it's concerning that people are of this mindset. We won't be taken seriously, you know, because people have these weird asinine requests. You know, like all I want is for people, black people in the UK, to be reasonable, right? To make sense, have a bit of logic with what people want, what people request, demand. You know, it's expected for me anyway. I don't know. I know some of you have all these alternative timeline, historic events in your head. You know, I know some of you talk about Moors. I know some of you talking about, okay, cool, but I expect, and I am open for the idea of a European monarchy being quote unquote terribly black, terribly white. I keep saying black for some reason. Terribly white. I have no problem with the UK royal family being terribly white. I expect that, right? Just as I expect a Nigerian monarchy should be terribly black. You know, the Japanese monarchy to be terribly Japanese. You know? And as expected, this incident, you know, we see Piers Morgan, we see all these kind of right-wing leaning outlets. They're obviously, you know, they're obviously going to call this woman a racist, right? And this is probably going to affect her work, her career. And this is something that I really want to get to a lot of people's head, especially the younger people, younger Black British people, because there's a lot of people in older generations, particularly the boomers, who will always come out and claim that Black folks can't be racist. But for me, whether you have the power or not to inflict, you know, an institutionalized, you know, racist effect, people are looking for any forms of discriminatory behavior from Black people. Just like examples like this in this instance, because they want Black people to play fair, right? If you're going to complain about racism, then other people will feel the right to complain about racism as well. So I don't, you know, I really don't want, especially us millennials, the younger generations, to listen to these older generations who, you know, it's not their fault. They came at a time when they were witnessing abuse and, you know, social rejection. You know, so yeah, they are their idea is tainted in a way, and it's not their fault. But I think here in 2023, like we have a different reality. Right. And so basically what I'm saying is that you need to act accordingly. We need to act accordingly. We can't be on this emotional, illogical, irresponsible, childlike, you know, behaving like, you know, or interacting with people in a one-sided way. Like, I think people are not accepting it anymore. You know, people are seeing it as double standards. But to be honest with you, that's all I really had to say about that. Yeah, I don't know. I just knocked myself out of my own stream. This is how sloppy I'm getting on the streams. Apologies for that. But if anyone wants to jump on, feel free to. The links are in the chat, the links in the description if you want to talk about this issue. And as it pertains to other issues, I don't know, how Black British people move in the UK, you know, all of this ideas of pro-Blackness and what it might be doing, you know, to the collective image. Right? Because all it takes is one foul-mouthed situation like this, and people just make endless examples of it. You know, of course there's going to be examples. Oh, see, if I said that about a Black person, if I said that Black royal family was terribly Black, yeah, they'll get cancelled. Right? And that's true. You know, let me see what you're saying in the chat. Eunice Osman says it's madness. Eunice Osman says it is what you call an identity crisis. Are you referring to the mixed race kind of existence? see, stream more, not many do this. Apothesis says stream more, not many do this. Yeah, the thing about streaming, man, it kind of gets you, man. I've been fairly consistent for almost a year now, and I don't know, man. Need to change tack to some degree, but I appreciate that. But we've got Diego Ife, aka Diego Harry, in the building, so we can put him up. We had someone else in the building, but I think they couldn't join. But yeah, if anyone else wants to come on, feel free to. This is open mic. Links in the chat, links in the description. What's your view on this? This instance. Is she right to say or to basically accuse the royal family of basically? I don't even know what you can accuse the royal family of doing. Just being basically almost accusing them of just being terribly white, quote unquote. Like it's man. But we got Diego If in the building, man. How you doing this evening, bro?
I'm good, brother. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Hey, I can't complain, man. I can't complain. Feeling a bit lazy and sloppy, so forgive the the kind of lax the presentation today.
Nah, all good, man. All good.
Where's that?
Yeah.
So, what do you think about these statements? Like, do you think are there any grounds for Adjoa, to have some reason? Is it reasonable for anyone to kind of say that?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And the thing is, I don't know, I guess people aren't always logical, right? But she looks like she's not a young woman. She looks like she's quite...
I think she's in her 60s.
Yeah, so she's an old woman. So she's seen what the whole, fight against racism going back to obviously when she was coming up was about, right? So, to me, it's a bit weird that we've gone from, like I said, trying to get legislation, trying to break down systemic barriers. Obviously, that's not something you achieve overnight. The people from back then, when they were trying to do, they were at the beginning of trying to get, I guess, civil rights in the UK. They weren't talking about representation within the royal family. That was the least of their concerns. Many of them were content with being working class, maybe middle class at a push. Like there wasn't this type of obsession with elitism. So to me, it's just a reach. I'm not sure if she found herself in a position where she didn't have much more valuable to contribute. So it was just kind of like off the cuff. It wasn't particularly thought out well. Maybe she felt that because she's, married to a white man, she mixed herself, that she had to kind of overcompensate with this whole kind of like racial diversity statement. There's a lot of women that have a similar mindset who obviously find themselves in certain kind of unions who will say the same thing. No one tells them to perform blackness in quote, but they choose to because there's something in them that feels compelled to do that. So people look at them and think, they come across as virtuous. But in most cases, I don't think that woman was saying that to be altruistic. Definitely not. So it's pretentious, but there'll be other people who are like-minded, other people who lack logic, and will just be like, yeah, she's a real one.
The thing that you think she feels, could that be guilt to some degree to make her want to overcompensate to to kind of make these type of corny statements?
It could be that. It could also be like an internal conflict where on the one hand, I don't know what her motivations were for obviously marrying the man that she did, but let's just say potentially it might have been that his whiteness appealed, right? You want that kind of proximity to whiteness because you, in a sense, you look at it as maybe a gold standard. But then at the other end of it, you want these white spaces to become more diverse. Which one is it? It's almost like a form of like race related psychosis. I don't know. Do you understand? It's like, where do you stand on this? Like, are you for this or are you for that? Well, it's consistent with that internal conflict, So that to me, that's what it sounds like, Yeah. And I think this is the other thing. I think I forgot who the woman was. I don't think I got her name. The Piers Morgan snippet that you showed. That woman was speaking nonsense, man. nonsense, complete nonsense. There weren't black royalty as such, right? She mentioned that Sarah Bonetta Forbes, that
Mm,
wasn't Queen Victoria's daughter. That was a woman, also a woman. It was a child who was basically a captive or enslaved. I
mm,
think she was rescued by the Royal Navy.
right.
And then she ended up being, those Victorian Creole Lagosian types.
Right.
So Queen Victoria covered her tuition, you know, basically contributed to like her upkeep. It was almost a bit like, it wasn't like her daughter per se, it was just someone that she sponsored and she had a soft spot for. It's not too different to like the liberated Africans in Sierra Leone who certain benefactors in the UK paid for their education, and in doing so, they took on their surnames. So
Mm-hmm.
that was almost like that. It weren't like it was properly her daughter. And someone made a point in the comment section, which was correct. She ended up moving back to Africa, and she married a man, a similar man. Oh, because she's Yoruba. Sarah
Right.
Bonetta Falls is Yoruba. Yeah, yeah. Aino
Mm,
is her name, and she married another liberated African or Creole Yoruba man, James Pinson Labulo Davis. That's his name. And he was not to digress from it, but he was like a power mover in Victorian Lagos.
mm.
So that was. So I'm just saying that she definitely wasn't the Queen's daughter. There's no black UK royal nothing.
Mhm.
I think there's speculation. Was it one Caroline, if I'm not mistaken? Not Caroline, Queen Charlotte. No, I think it was Queen Charlotte. Yeah, not Caroline,
Mhm.
Queen Charlotte. There's this idea that she was black, but then and that the royal family wants to bury it, and that rumor gained traction when the whole Meghan Markle thing came up, right?
Mhm.
But for me, I don't think it's conclusive. I guess we'll never 100% know, but I don't think it's conclusive that Queen Charlotte was black. It might just have been the artist, you know. It could
Oh,
be.
it's impressions, right?
Yeah, it could be because at the end of the day, there was no camera, kind of like Polaroid or digital anything. Do you
Mhm.
understand? So
Right.
we had to
But
go by. Go
but
on.
the thing is, we got some people when they're in the chat, and I'm sure they're out here in society that they tend to want to believe what that woman was saying, that perhaps
Mm.
they are hiding people of color or they are putting them down somehow. Like, what do you is this a wider delusion, or is there like some sort of history that perhaps we might be missing,
Nah, I
or
think it's delusional. I think it's delusional. Put it like this, right? I'm gonna keep it real. Have there been black people who are remarkable beings and have achieved great things and are men and women of renown? Sure. But
Mhm.
that can't be every in quote black person. It's impossible. Every group of people, and no matter how you want to aggregate them, you want to kind of like look at them in like their most smaller kind of like subgroups or subgroups or subgroups. You're always gonna have people that are like creme de la creme, and then you're gonna have
Mhm.
those that are like, you know, not quite. Let's just call it what it is. So there's this conspiracy that black people, some way, somehow, there's been this conspiracy to keep all black people down. And
Mhm.
a lot of that is not necessarily, the evidence isn't so strong for it. There, context is everything. If we're talking about in like, obviously, like slave-based societies or societies that had slave-based economies, you can
Yeah,
see
for
that
sure. Yeah,
yeah,
I can see that.
there's a business motivation. As brutal as it is, there's a business motivation for that. Or like in the case of like the colony, even like colonialism, for example, a lot of people don't look at the small print and realize that colonialism was more like the concept of colonialism is propaganda. Do you
Mhm.
understand what I'm saying by that? In the sense that a lot of the countries were, I'm just using this as an example when it comes down to this whole kind of black conspiracy theories and wanting to spread. It was propaganda. They had to find ways to justify, obviously, exercising their in quote will over certain people,
Mhm.
but they needed the people that look like the people to assert themselves over the masses. So the kind of control that they typically tend to be ascribed is not as much as people may think, but propaganda can do a world of good. You understand?
Mhm. Mhm.
Britain has used propaganda a lot of the time to limit the potential, shall I say, what's the word I'm looking for here? When you want to achieve a certain outcome through what you might use war to achieve, right? Rather than using war, if you're able to either use propaganda or you're able to, you know what I'm trying to say, right? You can manipulate a sort of kind of peace, outbreak of peace, because you don't want to prosecute that war because of the resources you part with.
Right.
So I hope what I'm saying is not all over the place, but what I'm trying to get at is when it comes down to deprecating the image of black people, right? It was in most of the cases on a systemic level, it was based on cold-hearted decisions for self-preservation, not kind of like, you're black. Do you understand? It wasn't something petty. It was, and there was always privileged black people when all this shit was going. It was always. Because at the end of I'll give you one quick example before I pass it on. But if you look at like pictures of Queen Elizabeth, like in the early, at the start of the decolonization era in West Africa, people you'll see in the UK, her security will, unless she goes to shake your hand, this is when she was alive. They'll be very much like, don't be too over familiar, very genocide, very, very particular about like the boundaries, right? But these times she was having, dances with Kwame Nkrumah. She'd go to this place. Anyone that was considered to be royalty or creme de la creme. She's like, yeah, you're my people. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You'll see pictures. You're like, Rod, you're allowed to get that close up to the Queen. So what I'm saying is that it's somewhat class motivated. A lot of people who are proponents of these conspiracy theories, they like elitism. They want to be adjacent to it. And so they believe that there's this conspiracy such that black people, in quote, always going to be down here, not taking into account that there's most white people are also down here, if you will. You see my point? So at the end of the day, whether you're talking about black people from Africa, black people from the New World or like New World descendants, many people, when they think of royalty, the Queen, the King of England, that is like the apex. That is the image in their mind. So to them, it's like that's like the gold standard of any form of royalty. Of course, media, PR plays a big part in that. So, do you understand? When people are looking for some kind of way to feel better about themselves, there has to be somebody that somehow has affected them and blah, 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 blah. So, again, forgive me if I've been all over the place.
No. It's that type of thing. No. I appreciate that. But do you think that this is a racist statement? Because I guess a lot of, white people, other non-black people are using examples such as these to basically state that, see, black people can be racist too. Like, do you think this is an example of just not being disciplined or having, I don't know, delusion whereby you feel like you can just go out and say any old thing without thinking of the repercussion?
Well, it's decentralized behavior. That's ultimately what it is. But unfortunately, the impact, as you said, there's this idea that if you can so much as just grab anything that a black person says or does, that they can actually, did you understand? They'll sensationalize it. So that if a black person does receive legitimate racism, then already the burden of proof is very great. And there's always going to be stuff. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So it is messed up. Yeah, there is no code because you said people really consider that there'd be repercussions for people beyond them, then they would think twice about it. But this is gold dust. This is ammunition to discredit black claims of discrimination.
Right.
And that's why Diane Abbott, they made sure that they really, got a firm grip on that. So it's almost like the different instances of black people, in quotes, saying things that can be construed as racism, right? Do you see my point? Is gaining traction. Because I think that's like pretty. Yeah,
that's what I forecast, man. Because you can if you are aware of the society, you can see it coming. Like it's just. People are just setting the trap and waiting to hear something discriminatory coming out of a black person's mouth. And it seems like in this occasion, it seems like this woman just felt so relaxed, and it came so off the tongue, like, it's terribly white up there. Like,
Yeah.
You tell the Saudi family, oh, terribly Arab. Jesus, man, those swords, those shanks were just shing.
No, you're right. You're right. Really, really, and listen, it
You
was
know,
just in this day and age where the media has tried to sensationalize some kind of racial tensions or chasms. Maybe not saying that it's fully, but you get my point. There's cleavages of it. Again, they can use that. This can be subsumed. The likes of the Daily Mail, other newspapers that want to put the Sun, for example.
Mhm.
Again, this is gold dust for them. And then also, sorry, there's something you said that brought something to my mind. You know that Shola
Mhm.
Moss fan?
Right, yeah. I remember her.
Her presence, people think that she's where she is because she's so great at what she does and she's so valued. I believe that her presence, have you heard of Kende Andrews, the
No.
the black guy? He's like light skinned. He's lightish skinned. He's
Mhm.
like one of these like far left kind of like these left wing lecturer types from I think one. I don't know if it's a Aston or Birmingham Uni, one of them, and he's
Mhm.
been on similar shows like Shola, and they'll say how white people are this, white people are that, da 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 da. Da. They are the threat to humanity, this, that, and the other.
Mhm.
And I'm saying that they use these people, yeah, they
That's
use these people so that it can be like, see, you know how many
right,
black people think like that. It's not
right,
just white people that can be racist. Trust me, those blacks, they're racist. That
right.
is, do you see my point? So that Shola woman being as prominently placed, as consistently placed as she has been, I think she's to serve that purpose. She's there thinking she's being the most pro-black this and warrior and activist, but meanwhile she's being used as a pawn in a bigger kind of racial politics game.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
Right.
She's the opposition.
I think online account says it very succinctly. He says
Yeah.
we have allowed too much emotional. Oh, black women. I saw black people, and I think black people in general. But he
Mm.
says black women to be the voice of so-called reasoning, and it only leads to backlash against black people. Yeah, that backlash, man, is what I'm sensing. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And yeah, absolutely. But
Yeah.
we got TVS in the building, man. TVS, how you doing this evening?
Hi, I'm good. Yourself?
Hey, good to have you again. This live stream was it was off of your comments, so I appreciate your input into making this stream.
No problem.
But yeah, good to have you on, man. What do you think? What do you make of this situation?
It's ridiculous.
Is it?
It's absolutely ridiculous because it's funny that there were other royals at the coronation ceremony from all around the world, from Lesotho, from Swaziland, from Jordan, from Saudi, from Japan. You mentioned all of them, right? She didn't say, "Oh, the Asante king's family is too black," or the Jordanian king's
Terribly
family
black.
is too, Arab, or exactly, or the Japanese king's family, So why is it only the British king who has to be held to a different standard? And does that now mean that all his grandchildren have to marry people of other races to be considered, diverse?
Right. It comes across as an annoyance, like looks at the balcony, she sees all these white people, and it's just like, oh, it's too white. It's just so weird. Like, what's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that? Because
and I know some people in the back will be, they'll be oh, raccoon, but nah, I'm a very reasonable person, man. Like this way of thinking is just too emotional. How you need to respect other people's customs and other people's territories, environments.
And this comes back to being consistent about the rules we make up. Like we were discussing, I think last week or the week before, about the Black Cleopatra. If you say only Black people should represent Black people in movies, then let's be consistent when that
Mhm.
happens. If you say, if you're
Mhm.
pro-black, you have to marry black and keep your family black, then let someone who is white then keep his family white. Is that not the way it should
Mhm.
go? But now you want a different rule for them, whereas you can do whatever you want. Adjoa, as you said, is biracial. I don't know that, but I'm going to take your word for it that she's biracial
Yeah,
directly. So she has
she
one
is. I
black
see the
parent.
picture of her with a mum and a dad. Typical, I think, Ghanaian dad and English mum.
Yeah. So you want your parents to have that choice to
Mhm.
intermix, but then you don't want someone to have his own choice. Everyone should have the right to make their choice. You know, Camilla's made a choice to
Right.
marry her husband decades ago. So are her grandchildren suddenly supposed to turn, mixed race the moment that she's crowned queen? How does that work? Because
It'll be a crazy situation. Imagine there's like this promotion out of guilt to kind of, okay, look, we're too white now. We need to, kind of intermingle with colored people, and like this project to just get like, it's weird. It's crazy.
crazy.
You
And
know.
and the suggestion was that Charles should have got children from outside his family who were mixed race to carry his what do you call that thing? I guess the train for his cloak. And
Oh
and it's,
right.
why should
Mhm.
he do that? He has grandchildren who can do that for him. Why should he just go and look
Mhm.
for random children of color to carry that for him? Why would he want strangers next to him as he's walking down the aisle in the church?
Right. Right.
It zero sense. Zero sense whatsoever.
I
And
read somewhere that I think it was probably before the 50s that actually black people were not black Asian people, people of the colonies were not allowed to come to these coronations. Don't call me on that, but that's what I read, and I kind of believe that to be true. So it's like the change, the difference between Queen Elizabeth's to King Charles and having people of color is an improvement at the very least, if that's true.
if it's true, but I highly doubt it, because how many coronations have there been in the past 100 years?
Mhm.
Maybe two or three. So, how many people of color were there? I mean, there were. I mean, let's be clear. There were people of color living in England in the early 1900s, but how many of them would be in a position to go to a coronation?
Right.
Right. And then, I mean, we can do some research on that. I'm pretty sure maybe you had representatives from the Gurkhas, but apart from that, there really wouldn't be a need for them to be present. But I'm sure some people were. We can look into it. But at the end of the day, I don't know how many people are present at the Swazi king's coronation, or the Zulu king who was recently installed. How many
Mhm.
non-black people were there at his coronation? It goes both ways.
Mhm.
And how many
Right.
non-black people were in his family? Right?
Right.
Nobody said a thing about that. So, and South
Yeah.
Africa is one of the most racially diverse countries in the world, up there with Brazil. So, but nobody expected him to have a non-black spouse or non-black people in his family. It's a ridiculous
Mhm.
expectation.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I just don't want the double standards, man. I just we need to, in my opinion, need to live with like the same expectation that we have for others is to be expected of us. Everything that we say, things that we do. I think right now it's with this weird imbalance where it's like we're being treated with kitty gloves in some situations. So like people can get up there on a live broadcast and just say any sort of nonsense with a grin and not think like it's offensive, or it's a delusion that I can't. It doesn't sit right with me, basically.
Yeah. And because you inhabit black skin or brown skin, therefore you can say anything because you don't have power. But your words can be hurtful to someone just the same way.
Exactly. You know, there's always someone in the chat that's going to suggest, oh, black person can't be racist. Okay, we don't have the power, authority. Okay.
Listen, I
just don't want that to be the green light for people to just speak all sorts of nonsense and not think like they're going to get reprimanded for it. I think that's just a bad look.
It is a bad look. And I don't think Adjoa Andoh is someone of low means. Definitely, as an actress, she has a certain income level. The fact that she's on TV and her opinion is being solicited means she has some sort of influence, right? So you can't say she's someone who's completely powerless and therefore her voice and her words are meaningless. It's not accurate.
Right. Well said. I really wanted this to be a short one, to be honest. I think a lot of these points we've stressed so many times, and but if there's any closing thoughts, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream. But I appreciate everyone coming on and everyone coming through in the chat as well.
I don't have much more to add other than I think we should be consistent in the rules and expectations we have from other races. That's it.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. TVS, I really appreciate you. I know you rarely come up, so I really appreciate you coming up when you can.
Okay. Have a good evening.
So respect to you. Have a good evening as well. Take care. And we got Diego. Diego, what's if you have any kind of, I know there's not much to surmise, but if your final thoughts on incidences like this.
I would say that people need to be more considered when it comes down to these discussions. That people like, I think there's a certain Andrew in the comment section that might have similar sentiments, to have an open mind. And when I say open mind, don't look at things in to excuse the pun, black and white terms. Sometimes there's nuances. Some things are not always evident, when you look at it the first time, but when you think about it without having to conform to some kind of pro-black, unattainable ideal or whatnot, then you might see that there's sense. I think a lot of the people that have these views are mad, or at least they're misinformed, if I'm going to be more polite and politically correct. And so I think it's a nothing burger. I think you've got people that have misplaced energy and misplaced frustration. And it's not everybody that should have. I know that freedom of speech is a thing, but not everybody probably should have the floor, should be given.
Right. It's powerful, right? It's influential.
Yeah, basically.
I appreciate you coming up. I'm just curious though, because if you don't know, Diego has a few books out, right? And we're going to dedicate a stream to them as well. But would any of these type of issues be covered in your books?
Well, in the sense of, so in the context of this issue, her behavior where she wasn't more constrained, or shall I say more, she didn't have more discipline in what she would say, and it was kind of off the cuff. It points to the lack of a code, So even if she's got her white husband, blah, 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 more power to her, etc., etc. Are there things that she can do or say as someone who is got sizable black ancestry or what have you, that may impact on other black people? And so that there speaks to the fact that people already behave in a decentralized way. So I would say when it comes down to the concept of like this, diversity and black people having more rights and weathering some of the systemic adversity they've had, those things were the priority. It wasn't to be royal adjacent or elite adjacent. It wasn't about that, to be honest. So I think my book kind of just puts that into context. And
what's the name of your book again, just so everyone can know about it and pick it up if they can before we do our stream?
Yeah, sure. So the book is called Ethnic Escapism and the Black Burden. And it's available on Amazon, and it's also available from our personal site. So yeah.
Perfect. Watch this space. We're gonna have a stream about that as well. So it's great to see. We can show support as well. So salute to Diego Ife for coming up as well. Salute to you, bro.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Salute.
Yeah, anytime. Have a good one. Peace. And yeah, folks, man, a nice short, brief stream tonight. And I just think that there's some double standards, some double speak that I think us as a group, Black British people, need to mature from. Need to treat others in the same way that we want to be treated. I know that sounds cliche and cheesy, but I just think that statements such as these are just ignorant, nonsensical, not well thought out. And again, I foresee that in the future, these statements like these are going to be, they're not going to be tolerated like this. People are going to be quote unquote cancelled off of these statements. So I just urge people to not listen to these guys that say, "Oh, you can't be this, you can't be that." But hey, it is what it is, man. This was a lazy live stream. I appreciate everyone for coming through. Diego and TVS for coming up on the panel. What are your thoughts on this situation? Feel free to write down in the comments below. Notice that I didn't ask you to like the stream. I didn't ask you to subscribe or even donate. All of that. This is a relaxed stream, which I like. Nothing to prepare, etc., etc. But yeah, feel free to put your thoughts in the comments below, and look out for other videos and streams coming up later on in the week. But for now, I just want to say peace. And with that being said, peace.